welcome to Basic Ideas of Science of Mind, September 2016. And we always begin everything with spiritual mind treatment, so I invite you to take a deep breath. Please continue breathing. But what that does is that cues us to relax. It allows us to simply focus on our breath, to be in the present moment, and to release any distractions that we might have experienced prior to coming in. Leave them outside. You can pick them up later. And our work is to know. And we begin by knowing that there is one infinite, absolute, self-existent cause of all things. It doesn't matter what we call it. It's an energy and a creative force. It is a life and a love and a light. And that is all in all as all. And since that oneness is all that there is, then each of us is created out of that oneness. So take another deep breath. And just open up to that part of you that is one with all, that is connected to everything, everywhere, and every when. Open up to that part of you that is beyond the physical, beyond the emotional, beyond the mental. That part of you that is pure light, pure love, pure spirit. And as we open to that part of us, we know that there is huge power and creative ability that comes with that. And so we consciously direct our thought. We use this creative power to create more love, more light, more joy, more health, more prosperity, and more happiness in our lives. We choose to focus on that which we want to experience. And so knowing that Spirit is alive and well in us all, and that we are mindful and conscious in the use of our creative abilities, we move into a state of gratitude. Because the doors have been opened wide. Everything is possible. We can have the life of our dreams right here and right now. And with a great sense of gratitude that all has already been received, we simply release this treatment into all that Spirit is, knowing that Spirit is all. As together we say,
and so it is.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Good. It's good to see everybody tonight. Yay. You got special perks of food because it's a holiday you came out. Oh, no. These are mostly leftovers from yesterday's luncheon. And Carrie baked and Betty baked. And Darcy brought some things. Hey, Michael, come on in. So this is your book for the class. It's an 8-week class, and it's a little book. So we're going to have a lot of freedom to take side ventures off into areas that you might have questions about or want to explore, or that just may pop into my mind, and that's where I want to go. But it is in the back of the room. It's one of the simplest books I've ever encountered on Science of Mind. It's $9.95, and April is going to have the bookstore open. This is a simple teaching. It is not complicated. It is a simple teaching, but keeping ourselves in alignment with that which we know to be true sometimes takes some doing. The main premise of this teaching is that there is only one. There is a presence and a power. It's a light, a love, a life. It is energy. It is absolute. It is infinite. It is everywhere present. And thank God that quantum physics came along and proved that we're not all nuts, although some people still think that we are. Quantum physics came along and proved that matter doesn't really exist. And we used to say, oh, the veil is very thin between the physical and the non-physical, between matter and spirit. No, that's not true at all. Matter just doesn't exist. except for a tiny flick of a second. Not even a second, a nanosecond. A little teeny, 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 tiny piece of a second. And matter is flicking in and out of form. And that's a good thing for me to remember, because anytime I look at something and think it's solid, I go, no, no, no. It just came and went like a billion times in the last moment. And so if things are continually being recreated, then what ability do I have to determine how they show up now? It always fascinates me that we can recreate our reality over and over and over again and recreate it the same way. It's like we're going to talk about physical health next week, and our organs are, even the doctors are saying that the organs are regenerating so quickly, they're regrowing themselves. What in the world keeps them sick? It's our thought that determines how they regenerate when they regrow themselves into a diseased organ. That's us, that's not the organ. The organ is perfectly capable of growing itself perfect, whole, and complete, but it is our thought. And so we look at all of the material plane and begin to be a little suspect. Maybe that's real, maybe it's not. Maybe that letter is saying something bad, maybe it's not. Maybe this experience that I just had where I got fired or someone left me or had a flat tire or whatever, maybe that's just the worst thing that's ever happened, or maybe it's not. Maybe there is a moment where this can be recreated into being the best thing that ever happened, the best day ever. Maybe in one of those nanoseconds, I can grab hold of the energy that brings form into place in my life and change what shows up. And when we start to break the hypnosis that says everything is hard and fast and nothing's going to change unless I pick it up and move it and change it, oy vey. If we start to break that hypnotic trance that most people are in, into this is not nearly as hard and fast as I thought it was. This is malleable. This is plastic. This is energy vibrating in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. How do you want it to come in? When it's out in that wave form, because we have either particles or waves. Particles are form, waves are energy. When it's in this wave form and it's already popped out of time and space, then what can we do to bring it into the particle form the way we want it? How can we flip something from being, oh no, this isn't any good for me, this is going to be an awful thing, to this is a great thing, this is a wonderful opportunity. I'm going to put a blessing in it and then I'm going to harvest that blessing. I'm going to know that everything works in concert and harmony for my good, and so whatever it is must be part of the concert and harmony and the support of life for me. And then when we look at it that way, we catch a hold and it shows back up into form in a totally different way. And people go, oh, it's a miracle. No, other than everything is a miracle, coming in and out of form. But when we start to get a sense that our experience is not hard and fast, and that we have an impact on what happens in our lives, for me, that is true freedom. That is true power. Because then it doesn't matter what is going on in the world, in my world, I know that I can shift it. I can have it be whatever way I want it. Do you have a question, Jane?
No.
Okay, so when you put your hand up like that, it just looks like it's a question.
Suspicious, but it's
So this idea of oneness is so far-reaching. And on the other side, other than the creative ability, what that opens up to us is that we are connected. That there's not an outside God. There's not me over here. You're going to love my stick fingers. and give her some hair. There's me, and then there's this cloud with the God, frowny God, with lightning bolts or blessings. And I remember when I was a kid, I just knew that, there was nothing I could ever do, that whatever God was out to get me and was just going to punish me for the rest of my life just for being alive. And it was always a very far off but very scary concept of deity. So this idea of oneness is far reaching on so many different levels. There isn't a guy on a cloud. There is not a power for good and evil. There's not a power for good and evil. There's not God and the devil. There's not two different forces combating each other. And there's not a God outside of us. This is such an important idea because so many people define themselves in subtler terms through their definition of whatever deity they have. And so if you have a God that is hostile, talk about a neurotic being, anger issues, lack of forgiveness, impulse control. Let's just wipe out the whole world with a flood or something like that. Impulse control issues. If you have a deity that is like that and you feel that you are under the oppression of this concept of God and that you've got some guilt issues, because usually that kind of a God comes with a liberal heaping serving of guilt, you've got some guilt issues, then you're going to have that as a main belief system in your life. I think that's where Murphy's Law comes from. If it can go wrong, it'll go wrong. And a lot of people have that because there's a sense that there's a dark spot. They were born with original sin and that there's nothing that they can do other than beg for forgiveness and maybe ace the pop quiz called Life on Planet Earth, whose end result is eternal damnation or celestial whoopee. It's a very weird concept that a lot of people have. And so if I say to you, you're a powerful, creative, spiritual being alive and well on planet Earth, you can create your reality. Your thought determines your experiences. And if you can get a hold of your thought and direct it to where you want it, anything is possible. If I say that to you and you go, oh, well, Barbara, you don't know me. You don't know that I have this dark mark on my soul and that I have an angry God that's going to pull the rug out from under me as soon as I get going, because that's my lot in life. That's my belief system. And you may not even know that that's your belief system. They call that a hidden belief. You may not even know that that's your belief system, but that you act that out over and over and over again. And I know for me, I used to act out that angry God with men. There's 7.5 billion of us on the planet. Really, it took me that long to find somebody who would be nice to me? So I would pick somebody who would pull the rug out from under me, who would set me up for failure, who would be angry at me all the time and want to punish me. Because I had a belief in that kind of a deity. And so I had to work on inside of myself, getting to where I could accept these ideas that there's only love, love is all there is, I'm a being of light, I'm a being of love, everything is great, the entire universe supports me. It took me decades to get to where I could accept that. And so what I love to do is to begin by looking at our concept of deity, whatever that may be, and to see how that relates to how we see ourselves. And one of the things that we talk about, not that often, but we talk about in Science of Mind is that we don't have a savior. We don't do savior because we're not lost. It's a bizarre concept. Not oneness at all. So here we have you, and we have a savior, And I'm not taking anything away from anybody who's got a connection with Jesus. Jesus was a cool dude. A lot of what he talked about was twisted. But you have a Savior. I mean, he didn't say he was coming to save you.
That's human interpretation.
And who do we have to be saved from?
Satan.
The devil. So, once you need to be saved, there's something to be saved from. And as soon as you bring that in the mix, there is no longer one. There is no longer simply a creation of life from a higher consciousness, a higher vibration, a higher state of being. There is something outside of us that can hurt us, take something away, do something to us. And then because of that, we need something to fix us, to help us, to intervene on our behalf. And that's a tempting thing. You know, there are sometimes I miss that, just to be really honest. I miss that, and some people like to translate this teaching into, this teaching saved me. No, it didn't. You saved you. You may have used this teaching, but you could have used another teaching just as well. You saved you, and you were ready to do that, and you could experience it. I didn't save you, Science of Mind didn't save you. I love the idea that it saved my life because you got to use that teaching to save your life. But it's you, because if it's not you, then someone can take that away from you. If you are not in charge of your life, it doesn't come in increments. You're either in charge of everything or you're not. You're either creating your reality or you're not. Everything is either one or it's not. It can't be a little bit. So we have this triangle, we'll get rid of it, as opposed to this idea that here we are, smiley face again, and here are the waves and the particles, and they are coming back and showing up in physical form. That if it's in our life, we created that. We are manifesting the actual atoms of our physical life. The same way that we are manifesting the state in our body, the state of our bank account, the state of our relationships, we're doing it all. This idea of oneness says that in order for a unity to exist, it must exist in its totality at every point simultaneously. It took me years to even figure out what that meant. In order for a unity to exist, it must exist in its totality. Otherwise, you could cut it up. A little unity here, a little unity there. That's what I was talking about yesterday until I started thinking that's going to be interpreted to the unity movement. Don't say that. You cannot chop a unity up, so it must be present in its totality at every moment simultaneously. It can't be Spirit is present here. Now wait for it, here it comes, and Spirit is present here. It can't be, because then you have a place where there is no spirit, no oneness, no energy, whatever it is you want to call it. And if you have that, even just a little bit in the back of your mind, well, God can't be in this. This is too awful. God can't be in this. Spirit can't be in that. I can't have created that. Even if you have just a little bit in the back of your mind, you lose that whole concept of unity. And unity is the place of power. That I am the one in my life that chooses what I experience. I am the one that chooses how my life will be, regardless of the circumstances, because somehow I created those circumstances, and those circumstances have popped in and out of time and space between a particle and a wave a billion times. So I can catch hold of the popping in of any way that I want it to be, and they call that miracles. They call that instantaneous demonstrations. But I'm the one who's choosing how my life will be. And when I get a sense of that, things start to open up, because then you're not blaming people and circumstances. Well, I could have done that. I could have been a contender. I could have had a great life. I could have been a happy person, except these things happened. No, we have that opportunity in every moment to experience our lives the way we want to experience them. It's us, because it is one. And then when I look at you, if, God forbid, I have fallen off the wagon of love and joy, and blame someone for something in my life, if I allow myself to think that way, then I've moved out of this idea of oneness, which gives me all of the power and prosperity and health and love and joy, and I've moved into the universe of suffering and struggle and sorrow. Because if I think that anybody in my life determines my destiny but me, then I'm lost. I'm a slave. I'm in a prison of my own making. I have no power over my life. I can't do anything. And there are lots and lots of people who live that way. They don't understand that we are infinite beings. We are powerful, creative, spiritual beings alive and well on planet Earth because we're the ones doing it. How could we not be alive and well on planet Earth even if we're pretending and playing the game of limitation, heartache, struggling, illness, poverty, all of that? We're still doing it. We're still alive and well on planet Earth even when we're creating those other things. And when you get that, you can look at something you created and it doesn't own you. You know who you are. You know that if I created it, I can uncreate it. I can recreate it. I can work my spiritual energy on that, bless it, see it as good, claim it, name it, claim it, know it, grow it, and I can transform that event into something that sometime later I'll say that's the best thing that ever happened to me. I mean, think about divorces. Maybe at the time it was, oh, I don't know what I'll do, all is lost, I'm going to die. And some period of time later, it's like, boy, I'm so glad that happened. That really let me learn and grow and evolve and expand into a greater level of awareness. And if we're smart enough to do that learning and growing before the divorce, then you end up having a transformative relationship with that person that you never would have had without that. And they were always a choice whether to come along or not, to be a reflection of you or not. But whoever's in that place is going to be a reflection of the new you, because you are the one who gets to call the shots. The first title is called You and Your Mind, the Mind. Your mind. Your mind is a misnomer. You and mind. This is not science of your mind. When you say your mind, most people think of their brain. This is not about your brain. This is about this energy that is intelligent, that responds by corresponding to what you're thinking and what you're putting out there. This is about your relationship with that. And for most people, that ends up going under that awful three-letter word, God. So it's important to look at who is your God? What is your God? What kind of a God do you have? The very first talk I ever gave, I was in my 4th year of studies, and in the structure back then, that was the ministerial class. And I had just started it, and there was a fashion school. It was a fashion school in Fort Lauderdale. I was living in Fort Lauderdale, and I was working at the center there, and somebody called and said, to appease our parents, we're calling out around town and asking if some minister will come in maybe once a month on a rotating basis and talk to our students so that we can say we offer some kind of religious studies or religious experience. And I mentioned that to the senior minister there. He laughed. He said, I'm not going to waste my time doing that. And I thought, well, I want to do that. I want to do that. So I went down there, and there were like 4 people there. And I whipped out this great talk on create a new God, because that is one of the most important first steps to me. Is first of all, you got to look at what kind of a God you have, and if you don't like it, fire it. And there's no kids, fire their ass. If you don't like the God you have, get rid of them. Get rid of them, fire them, and then put a help wanted ad out. Wanted new God. I would like a God that is always happy, that is always supportive, and that always is present in my life, that can take lemons and turn them into lemonades, and can provide all of the prosperity and health and joy and opportunity that I could ever possibly imagine. I want a God that's sole job is to peel my grapes. I want a God that is right there, my biggest cheerleader, saying, of course you can do this, of course you can have this. Don't you know that's why I'm in this dualistic model? Don't you know that's why I put you here? Was so that you could live this amazingly great life. I want a God whose only energy is about my love, my happiness, my joy. So get rid of that other God that's got these crazy, neurotic, sick personality problems. Get rid of them. Put a nice little heart there. With some.
There you go.
There you go. Now.
I do have a question.
Yes, Jane.
Some point. The doctor put me on an antibiotic, and it was doing real well, and I was doing fine. I was going to be fine.
You are fine.
Except his office phoned and said, "Oh, tests show that you're on the wrong antibiotic. Take this other antibiotic."
So,
So I took the other one, and it made me feel like crud, and I felt terrible ever since.
Your
Now, the
choice.
thing of it
okay.
is I'm thinking about, is this because of my conscious mind? What made that change?
Well, you're nitpicking your life. So you're healthy. It's your decision how you feel when you take the antibiotic. Rather than being angry and saying it made me feel like crud, why don't you bless it and say, I'm feeling great today. I'm feeling healthy, my body is healthy, my body is happy, everything is great.
Well, because it's not, the other one was.
But that's your choice. It's your choice to respond to this new antibiotic the way that you're responding to it. And I would recommend to you that you just pretend it's the other one,
It's another one, antibiotic?
that it's the old one. Pretend that it's the old one. Tell your body it's the
Another
old one.
version of the old one.
Yeah. Because you can make yourself feel awful. And usually it's to validate some anger. So my question to you would be, Jane, what happened in 2 weeks that you let yourself get back into anger? You don't have to be mad at your doctor. You don't have to. And you don't have to be mad at your antibiotics. I used to know a woman in Miami who had radiation therapy, and this was 30 some odd years ago. And the way that she handled it was that she befriended the radiation machine, to the point where on the last day of radiation therapy, she went out and she embraced it and said, thank you for helping me. Now she, like anybody else, left that radiation session and went out and puked her guts out for 2 days, but she was constantly being grateful for that healing presence in whatever way it came to be able to help her to live a long, happy life, which she did. So this is easier, Jane. The reason I gave you that example is that this is easier. Make friends with your antibiotics. Fill them up with love. If you're going to take them, bless them. It's like if you're going to eat food, bless it. If you're going to go through McDonald's drive-thru, don't go through telling yourself how horrible the food is. Bless it. And bless your pill when you take it and see if your body doesn't just get along fine with it. Because I have great faith in you, Jane. I do.
So it's just my conscious mind, I've just got to whip that in.
I think that maybe you just, for whatever reason, decided to get mad. And a convenient person to get mad at was your doctor and your pills.
Yeah.
So don't do that.
Okay.
There you go. And it really is as easy as that. If you put anger out into your world, you're going to create all kinds of reasons to validate and justify your anger. And then people go through life angry and they go, well, there's so much to be angry at. Or you don't have to do that. We're so programmed that if anything goes wrong, then we, get on our self-righteous indignation soapbox and attack whatever it is we think is going wrong in our life, instead of going inside of ourselves and just shifting it and just letting it be okay. I think antibiotics are fantastic. There are people all over this world that die because they can't get an antibiotic. So anytime we have anything like that, I always just bless it. And if you listen to me, Jane, if you put a blessing into it, you will get a blessing out of it. Because your thought controls your experience, and you control your thought. It seems so simple. It's such a simple teaching. If you name it, you will claim it. If you know it, you will grow it. If you think it, you're going to live it. If you let it come out of your mouth, it's almost in form right then. So think about what you're thinking about. Stop doing what hurts you. Stop thinking about things that hurt you. Even if, well, I had that experience. I'm just telling you what happened. No. Don't say it. Don't think it. Teach yourself how to control your thought to the point where you are thinking about and focusing on and energizing that which you want to experience. I mean, think about how your life could be. You could have more money than you know what to do with. Each and every one of us can have that. You can have a body that springs up out of bed filled with energy. You could live to be 300 years old if you want to. You can have relationships that are just so great. I just love you so much. You can have that. You can have intimacy and honesty and support. And you can have everything that you choose to have in your life. Just show up. Show up. Have somebody call. Have something happen. We're about to redo the kitchen because the people in the kitchen circle want 2 sinks to work in. Great. You want to go in there and wash dishes? I'm going to give you 2 sinks. So while we're doing that, we've got to tear up one of the countertops. Well, if we're going to get a new countertop, we might as well get all the new countertops. So wonderful. We've got new countertops about to show up. Now, Michael hasn't been here for months because he's been working on his house. And somebody new showed up yesterday whose job is to install kitchens. He spent the last couple of months in LA. He lives in LA. He lives in Asheville. He goes to Agape with Michael Beckwith, and he comes here. He says, I haven't been here in a few months. I would love to put your kitchen in. Demonstrations can happen. I didn't sit there and go, okay, I've got to do affirmations now that the kitchen goes in, that there's enough people to do the kitchen. Oh my God, what about the floor? Oh, and what about painting? Oh, I've got to do these affirmations. I got to create it. No. I just simply knew that everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to work out great. And then it does in ways that are better than I can even think of. You know, we thought we were going to call Michael, and Michael showed up. He came early. Hey, here I am. So when we get a hold of our thought process, the benefits are huge. And instead of figuring out how to rethink something, most people just try to do. I'm going to control it. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to make it happen because I'm sure if it doesn't happen this way, then there's no other way possible that can happen. That's ridiculous. We live in an infinite universe. There are infinite possibilities of how we can get what we want. And so when we open up to that, then things fall into place. But most people are out there driving themselves nuts. They're reacting, they're controlling, they're manipulating, they're exhausted because they're trying to make life work instead of open up to and tune into that life that has already worked out in ways better than we can even dream of. And so rather than just do, which only gets you do, step back, take a break, think about it. What am I thinking that is creating this obstacle? Well, I didn't think it. You weren't always making me wrong. Don't blame me. No. Come on. Relax. What am I thinking? What is going on in my consciousness that is making this difficult? Well, I always seem to have difficulty in my life. Something is always difficult. So you have a belief that things are difficult. So it doesn't really matter where the difficulty comes from as long as we've reached our quota of difficulty. So what's up with that? Why in the world do I have to have difficulty? And this is where you start getting on some personal growth. Well, things can't just be easy. Things have never been easy. I'm not that kind of person that just has things be easy. I've got to struggle, and that proves how strong I am, that I can make it happen, except now I'm just really tired. So what is it about me that has this idea that instead of life lifting me up every morning in joy and happiness and love, has me fighting my way through life? And what about that is connected to some kind of a deity that is creating obstacles for me along my path? And when you start looking at those things and you start shifting the way that you see yourself and the way that you see life, that life is something that is supporting me and loving me and peeling me another grape and going out of its way to make everything right for me, then I start to change the way I create my experience. This idea of oneness is far-reaching. It is far-reaching into every area of our lives because we are connected with everything. We are already connected with what we want to have in our lives. It's already a connection. And we are connected with what we have in our lives. So if there's a discrepancy between what we have in our lives and what we want to have in our lives, it's all coming through us. It's all coming through us. So we've gone to the big buffet table of life, and instead of taking what we want to take, we've taken what we don't want for whatever neurotic reasons we do, and then we sit there and bemoan our fate that we have what we don't want. You know, I just hate beets, and all I have is beets. It's just awful. Life is awful. I never get what I want. I walked right past what I wanted and never reached out and got it. I only got what I don't want. This is the way we live our lives. Think about your relationships. You knew what you wanted, and yet you picked that person. Think about your jobs. You knew what you wanted, yet you settled for that other thing. We do it all the time. And it comes from a basic sense of who we are. So for me, the first primal questions in any spiritual journey is, what is God and who am I? Do I really live in a vibrational and reflective universe that will reflect $1 billion just as easily as a bounced check? Do I really live in a universe that takes whatever I get it and brings it into form? Or is all of this just a fantasy and there is really a power for evil out there that will try to hurt me, make me sick, make me lose things? And is life something that's going to hurt me? You know, someone was saying about safety. When we get into affirmations, the primal affirmation that people do is, I am safe. Because so many people are not safe in this world. And why is that? Because they feel like there's something outside of them, something's going to blindside them, something's going to happen, the rug's going to be pulled out, everything will be lost at the last minute. They feel like that's going on. And so they're not safe. Instead of, I am safe. I don't even need to know how this is going to work out. I don't even need to know what is going to work out. I just know that it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be great. And I am open to that, and I'm feeling filled with that, and I feel that connection between me and everything and everywhere and every when. You know, the oneness thing is so fascinating because it is not only the space part, but it's the time part. You can't have space without time. You can't have time without space. And so in our connection, we are connected with the future. If I go out and get in my car and head east, then eventually I'll find myself going east because I got my car and I headed east. And that's changing the future. We're all very aware of how we change the future. What are you going to do tomorrow? Well, I'm going to do this and this and this. In the world of quanta or quantum, you can just as easily change the past. Isn't that fascinating? Boy, don't you wish you could just reach back there a couple of decades ago and instead of saying yes, say no? Or instead of saying no, say yes? You know, boy, I had a chance to buy in on that .com, you know? How is it that we are so locked into that the only flexibility and change we get is in the future? It's our belief. Mathematically, it goes backwards just as easily as it goes forward. And so when we are saying, this is a great day, this is a happy day, today's the best day ever, only good comes into my experience, I'm just having such a wonderful time, then that energy actually can go back in time and restructure events so that what comes into your path that moment of that day happened in the beginning. It started happening 20 years ago, 40 years ago, that things were set in motion so that this thing showed up in your life today. When you start to think about the implications of oneness, you can change the past, you can change the future, you have access to any information, to any knowledge that there is, you have access to every solution, to every problem, every answer to every question, every one. You can pull people to you. And have you ever had people call you? Well, I was just thinking about you and the phone rang. It was weird. I was calling one of our people that joined as members a couple of weeks ago today, and I'm dialing, and the phone rang, and that was their name on my phone. I just pulled them right in. I didn't even have to wait for the phone on my end to ring through. Their phone that they started calling a little bit before I did rang through, and then there they were. Now think about how that works with other things. When the economy did its backflip in 2007, 2008, Michael Beckwith talks about how he was in meditation, and he just got this sense that he should get out of the stock market. And so he went to see a stockbroker and said, you know, I'm just feeling intuitively guided to just get out of the stock market. I just want you to pull everything today. So that when it all crashed the next day, and don't think his stockbroker was happy about it, when it all crashed, he was completely out of it.
Wow.
You have access to events in the future. And although Nina is the Oracle of Asheville and psychic as can be, we all have access to that. Haven't you ever had anything whisper to you? Go here, don't go there.
Yes.
Do this, don't do that. And if you have the courage to trust that, and to know that you are connected with all that is, and so life is supporting you, so this guidance, if it's not paranoia, if it's real guidance, is something that it's okay, you're safe to follow that. Think about the implications. This idea of oneness is huge. It means that I am you and you are me. That everything in my life is an extension of me. That nothing can hurt me, nothing can take anything away from me, because how can anything be taken away from me if it's all me? It's all mine. It's like when people lose things or think they've lost things, they call me and I say this little ditty, there's nothing lost in divine mind. How can anything be lost? You would have to have spirit and then this particular set of car keys that are lost. They are obviously out of divine mind, they're out of the oneness, there is no unified field over here where the car keys are. It's all one. And when you start to think about that I'm connected to my car keys, I'm connected to that perfect and right path that is mine to take. And I have access to all of the wisdom and all of the information and the intelligence to go forward on that and to be supported by life to take those steps. When you start thinking that way, then things open up that you had closed the door on. Because it's not like the universe wasn't knocking. Sandy, hello Sandy, Sandy. I'm your genius, I'm your bliss. Here I am, Sandy. And if we don't open up that door, then we can say, oh, well, I don't get any of that. No, of course we do. It's right here. It's part of us. And when we open up the door, people say, oh, it finally started to come in. No, it was always there. Always there knocking. Hello, hello, hello. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Look around. Stop it. Do something different. Hello, 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 hello. That's how Spirit talks to me. Because it's all coming through me anyway. So one of the most empowering things that I think this teaching gives is the ability for us to regain control of our lives without being controlling. To regain control of our lives in that it's not our genetics, it's not our story, it's not our education, our race, our gender, our sexual preference, our age, it's not any of that. It's not our socioeconomic background. It's nothing on the outside. It's all about us. That what one of us has ever done, all of us can do, and that we can do even more than that. You remember when they broke the 4-minute mile? Then everybody could do it. What's up with that? Did we get longer legs? No. We got a new idea. A new idea, new thought is a new idea. It's a new way of looking at things. It's a new way of living life so that we can create the life that we want to live. And as long as it's on the outside, as long as it's, well, my ex did that to me, the economy, I'm only making this amount of money, this is what the doctor told me, as long as it's in that realm, then we are powerless. But our ability to use our thought to manifest our dreams is so empowering to me. It's so uplifting. It's so wonderful. It's like when John and I were playing on the stage yesterday, and he said, well, I'm only working on 5-minute-old information. What happened? I said, we spoke the word. We spoke the word and we manifested it, because that's what happens. We open up to the idea and it shows up. We claim it and it manifests. We get an opportunity to look at life a little bit different, and things shift. And they shift just like that. Just like that. You don't have to wait. I love the idea of, I'm not interested in being patient. I'm interested in being clear. And as soon as I am crystal clear, the demonstration will be there. Ernest Holmes says, truth known demonstrates instantly. And so if it hasn't shown up in my life yet, for all of the billions of nanoseconds of flashing in and out of form, if it hasn't shown up in my life yet, it's because I am not clear enough to have a vibrational frequency of alignment to that which I want to have. And then it's there, just like that. And then people show up that I didn't even know existed. And they do things that I had no idea how they would get done, other than, of course, we'll do that. And somehow it's going to work out. And one of the tricks is not to allow yourself to get into that old reactive limbic thought process. You've got the different parts of your brain. You've got the frontal cortex, which is good. It takes a lot of blood to think in your frontal cortex, your logical, rational brain. And then you've got a little lizard brain in the back of your head, in your brain. It's called limbic. And it's all about survival. It's all about reaction and survival. And so if you feel like something outside of you can hurt you, and then something is created by you in your world that looks like something is going to hurt you, you automatically flip into your limbic brain. And when you do that, then it's all about saber-toothed tigers and fight or flight, and you're not thinking. So it's very important for you to develop an awareness of when you are being reactive, when you are working out of your limbic brain, when you are only seeing, like this, because all you're seeing is this one thing. And you notice that when that happens, you start repeating yourself. Has anybody ever been through a traumatic experience? Most people talk about it over and over and over and over again. They're stuck in that limbic reactive brain. And so when you start hearing about yourself, repeating yourself, that's the time to step back and, very importantly, breathe. Everybody take a deep breath. That changes everything. Changes all of your biochemistry, your brain chemistry. It allows your blood to get back into the front of your brain. It gets you out of that fight or flight scenario. It's so important for you to learn how to watch yourself. And those of you who are just starting out in this, when you find that everything has gone awry, march backwards. What happened? What were the circumstances? What did I think? How did I feel? What did I do based on that? Well, they looked at me sideways and I thought that they were being an ass, and I went over and I just socked them. And who knew that I was going to get beaten up through all of that? So march it backwards, and to see that just because someone looks at you sideways doesn't mean that that has anything to do with you. Just because someone or something appears like it might have the ability to hurt you doesn't mean that it can hurt you. And if you can stop that reactive process and breathe and know that all is well, I live in an abundant universe where there is more than enough for all. So if this left my life, I didn't have it. Only that which is mine I can keep. That which is not mine I cannot keep. No one can take anything from me that is mine. If they took something from me, it wasn't mine anymore. And if I created one thing, I can create it again, and I can create it better. So when we start changing those ways of being in the world, and we start uplifting them and upgrading them, then we start creating better and better and better circumstances. Everything is malleable. Everything is plastic. The table is not there. And when you realize that if we were all very, very clear, we could just make all the tables vanish. And if we want to, we could bring them back. We can do that with the power of our thought. We can do that in our physical bodies. People make themselves sick all the time. Make yourself sick all the time. And people have feelings all the time. We certainly can do it in our relationships. Haven't you ever just picked a fight with someone? Yeah, you know you have. Or you pick a love with someone. And you can change it. And what I like to do is you can do it with money. You can do it with money. But it has to do with getting a hold of your thinking. And it doesn't have to have anything to do with how much money you get from your job or how much money you've got coming in every month. It has nothing to do with that. That's the limited belief system that says, this is all I've got, and this is the only way that I'll get money. When you start to get that form is coming in and out in alignment with your consciousness in billions and billions of times per breath, and that any one of those times it can show up a little bit different based on how you are perceiving it, what you're doing, what you're thinking about, and what you're speaking, then you start to kind of rein in your thought and words, because you can create anything just like that. You can create anything. Anything, anything, anything. People go, well, Barbara, that's crazy. It takes a certain amount of time. You know, I'm selling my house, and so I've got to have an offer and a realtor and a closing. And, well, if that's the world you want to live in, you can. You can create it just like that. And you can get worried about it. Have you ever done that? And totally screw it up.
Right.
But not to worry. If you totally screw it up, just follow your thought back and say, where did I go astray? How did I do that to where I set a different course that created upset in my life? And how can I change that? And you can change it and have it change just like that. And change it for something even better. So that whatever you lost and was totally messed up wasn't yours by right of consciousness, or else you would have kept it. It's recreated at a new level, a higher vibration, a greater acceptance, and it's better than ever. That's why people look at things and go, oh, that was, I just thought it was all lost until I saw how it worked out, and it worked out better than ever. I was talking to somebody and they had an offer on their house, and it fell through, and they said, but I didn't want that offer. It didn't feel right. It felt kind of sticky and icky. And so now I'm going to create it better than ever. I'm going to create a better offer. I'm going to create a better life. I'm going to create a better body, better finances, better relationships, a better outlook on life. Because however we look out is what we get back. Darcy.
I was just gonna say, I've been noticing lately when I speak what I want out loud in a demonstrative way, that things come to me much quicker.
Right? Because you are clearer.
Is that what it is?
How many years have you been sitting in this room?
About 7. 7 or 8.
So yes, when you speak it, it comes clearer.
I mean, it's just been amazing. I mean, I go to work and I sing and I say things out loud. I said my treatment for money out loud, and I just tell myself out loud what's going to happen that day, and I set the tone, and next thing you know, the phone's ringing and things are just clicking. Just
Right.
boom, boom, boom.
Right. You can make it go the way you want it to go. You can make it all go away.
Thank you very much.
You can. But if you make it all go away, don't despair. Give yourself a pat on the back. Wow, look what I did. If I did that, I can do it differently. I can recreate it. The problem with having an outside power is that if that outside power does it, there's nothing we can do to bring it back or to recreate it in a better way. So if we did that, we can redo it. We can create it better than it ever was before. And if we're continually working on ourselves, opening up to that presence of spirit in us, as us, is us now, and we are feeling that and experiencing it and seeing it in everyone and everything in our world, we're claiming it as good, we're knowing that all is well, then we're raising our vibration, we're raising our consciousness, and the new things that come into our life are in alignment with that higher consciousness, that higher vibration. So when we create something from that place, it's better. It's happier, it's more joyous, it's more of a win-win for everybody. It lifts us up. When we do it from that place, it gets better, and there's no end to that place. We just keep growing and growing and growing and growing. But if you let yourself move into the idea that says, my life is separate from me. You are separate from me. My money is separate from me. My body is separate from who I am. If you move into that realm, then you have no power and no ability to create the life that you want to have. It's got to be that this is me. It's all me. You are all me. Spirit as us. We're all in this together, that kind of thing. We're all connected. We're all one. The native indigenous teachers used to talk about the golden spider web that connected every being in the universe. The same idea that there's a light that connects us, that we're all part of one whole. And then if you're all part of one whole, nothing can come against you. We're all part of the one whole. We can pretend that something is working against us, and we are so powerful that if we pretend long enough and hard enough, we'll manifest that in physical form. And then we'll look at it and go, ha, I knew there was evil in the world. I knew things could go wrong. No, 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 you did that. And if you did that, don't beat yourself up. Walk it back. Where did I go astray? How can I go back there and bring my awareness forward again? Well, there's always something out there. Whoa, wait a minute. What is your idea of God? Is that the boogeyman that goes bump in the dark? Is it that thing that's always out there? Something's going to get you? Do you really have a belief in evil? Look at that, because it affects how you see yourself, and it affects what you will or will not allow into your experience. All the while, the universe is going, hello, 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 I have everything you've ever wanted and more. Let me in, let me in. Questions?
No, I just wanted to say, when I think about being connected to everything, I think about all the resources I have to draw from.
Right.
It's limitless.
You are.
Yes.
It's limitless. It's amazing. So,
Good. Let's take a break.
Really nailing that.
So to give you a visual on how the creative process works, we've come up with circles. Keeping in mind that circles are representative of what Meister Eckhart said, that God is a circle with no circumference, whose center is everywhere. So we're using a circle so we can look at something, but it has nothing to do with a circle. Because the circle that represents spirit has no outside. And the same way that in order for a unity to exist, it must exist in its totality, simultaneously, everywhere. The center is everywhere. So we have circles that have no edge and that the center is everywhere. So look at that as the circle that is you. And there is a creative process that happens. And this may have nothing to do with the way that we create, but it's a way that we look at pictures so that we can wrap our heads around it. The one in the book, Ernest changed from this, you may recognize that, to this. So here we have a circle that doesn't have an edge because spirit is infinite. And that these sections are just different ways to look at the same thing. They're different aspects of the same thing. So we have, number one, we have conscious mind, and that's what most of us are aware of, our conscious mind. One of the things that I want us to start looking at in this class is those ideas and beliefs that we have that are not conscious. People say, well, I didn't think that. I believe that you didn't think that. You didn't think it directly, but somehow there was something that was in agreement to it, that had a belief in something, and that is still very much setting spiritual law in motion. So, for the sake of this discussion, we have conscious mind. Conscious mind, our thought, is that which directs. And again, thought is not the first thing. I shouldn't be saying this to you in this particular class. But thought is a byproduct. Thought is a byproduct of experience, of belief, of feelings, and then you have a thought. Back in the 60s, rational emotive therapy, it was such groundbreaking news to say that, no, I'm backwards, never mind. So we have conscious mind, that which directs our thoughts. And then we have this thing called law. It's the only way I know how to describe it. It's a law in that it will do the same thing over and over and over again. It will make Bill Gates a billionaire. It will make you a billionaire. If you set the same thing in motion that someone else did, you will have the same result. It's no respecter of person. It doesn't say, oh, I really like you, Susanna, but you over there, I don't like you. I'm not going to operate for you. It's like it doesn't matter who flips the switch for the lights. They will come on. And if the lights are not on, it's not that the laws of electricity have ceased to function. It's that we're not flipping the switch, or there's something that is not connected between the switch and the light bulb. So the law of electricity always works. The spiritual law always works. And I've tried for pushing 40 some odd years now to try to wrap my head around how is it that we create. I don't really know. I know that when we're clear, things manifest. I know that there's a feeling that goes along with that. Sometimes you get an electric feeling. Sometimes you're in the groove. Sometimes you just know that you're creating and that everything is fine. Everything is great. Sometimes you can look at what other people would call a catastrophe and go, no, everything is fine. Everything is great. And you know you're in that groove and things show up. Just like that. Conversely, sometimes you can be out of the groove And you can be knowing completely that everything is screwed up. We may not have children in the room, but we are still going over the World Wide Web. Everything is lost, everything is a disaster, and we will create that because we have our intention and our energy with that. There's something, I call it a law because for me it's as cut and dry as that. A lot of people want to get personality involved. Well, you know, but the love, and that's all well and good, but there is a law that operates on our thought, and it doesn't intervene on our behalf to say, this is a good idea, this is not a good idea. You know, you keep going down this road of all this negativity and blaming and criticizing and complaining, and you're going to create the outpicturing of that. It doesn't do that. It just says, I give you another grape. You know, here's another grape of a manifestation of negativity and a manifestation of fear. And here, how about a bankruptcy thrown in there and a car accident? And how much more do you want? What do you want to focus on? I'll give you anything. It is a law. It will fry you every bit as much as it will light up your room. It is a law. So I like that word because it obeys and creates. It doesn't matter what seed you put in the soil, it's going to bring it to life. The farmer plants a field of corn. If you leave ground open, the wind will plant weeds. The soil's going to grow them no matter what seed is put in it. It's our job to pick the seed. That's in the conscious mind. So in this, we call it a creative medium, a law. It is subjective thought. And that is that it is subject to. It is subject to conscious mind or thought. And then the end result is that which is created. It's the world of effect. It's the physical reality. It is how our bodies are, what our jobs are like, how we're feeling about our world, what we get and what we don't get. It's the outpicturing of thought, conditions, experiences, the physical world. And we are not in here in our own separate little circle. This is all us. And for that matter, we don't even really have these lines, because how can you separate a unity? Sometimes it's just all happening at once. Have you found that? So this is the way that Ernest is using something to describe the creative process. This is the one that we use more often. We have spirit, which is conscious mind, that which directs. We have law, that which obeys and creates, creative medium, subjective thought. And we have body, that which is created, the physical world, conditions and experiences. So we have thought or cause. We have law, and then we have effect. And in that level of effect, we are at choice as to how to take that and how to set law in motion again. That's why it is so important to learn how to not be reactive, to be able to stop the reactive process, which is a trip because your heart starts to pound, all the blood leaves your brain to go into your extremities so that you can fight or flight. Adrenaline is coursing through your body, your brain has gone on automatic, and you're just thinking like a lizard. I mean, really, that's what you are. So it's important to develop the wherewithal to go, wait a minute, what's happening here? And to be able to take a breath, because that slows the whole process down. Give yourself a chance to kind of come back into your body and think, and then to think about how you want to handle it, what you want to do, what you want to bring forth into your experience, which sets law in motion to then create again. There's a part in here that is called race consciousness. So this is the place, in my opinion, where we are all connected. We are all connected on the non-physical side of life. We are all one. And this race consciousness idea is really important because it's not just my conscious thought. It's just my conscious thought. Barbara, you tell me when I thought that thought. I did not think that thought. I did not say those words. And the implication is I should not be having this experience, but at some level we opened to it. That's why I recommend you not watch television before you go to bed. Don't watch the news. Don't get yourself all caught up in the drama and the trauma and the ain't it awful kind of things. Allow yourself to drift off to sleep on a positive note, because I assure you, even though there is not an outside power that is trying to hurt us, there are plenty of people in this world experiencing being hurt. There are plenty of people in this world experiencing lack and limitation and illness and upset, war, trauma, drama, and you are connected to that. When you are not mindful of how you manage your thought, you can open up to a lot of negativity. Think about Christmas at the mall.
Why?
Because you can open up to negativity. One of the exercises I like to give people right before Christmas is, your job is to go to the mall and stay happy. Go to the mall, stay happy. I used to have a student in Miami, and I charged him to get a hold of his anger to drive down Bird Road back and forth between 4 and 6 every night. Remember Wesley? Yes? After he mastered that, he fell on his knees and called me master. Because I had given him a great key, a great gift, that if you can master your thoughts and emotions in what, this was just his thing, everybody's got their own, in what he would have called his most trying time. And if you can do it and stay happy and stay in charge of your state and stay conscious of what you're going to think about, then you have all of that power freed up to create your life the way you want to create it. In this race consciousness concept, we can have things that happen to us as groups. And it's not uncommon on this very first night of class for the question to be brought up, what about Hitler? How does that work? Hitler. If we're all creating our reality, how did that happen? How did the Holocaust happen? What about children that are born with illnesses? What is that about? What about rape? What about people that are hurt? What about that? And so, because that's a very real question, I want to ask you what you think about that. You don't know. Good answer. Good answer. When a child is born into this world, are they, just a brand new little being?
No.
What are they? They're spirit. They're an immortal soul. Some would say they have been on this earth plane for lifetimes. Many, many, many lifetimes. Some would say they've been alive forever. In what form, I don't know. I know for me, when I have created things that were very painful in my life, that looked so much like I had absolutely no control over that circumstance, I have to go back to know that I, at some level, set myself up for that. And for me personally, I can see that I was born into a house that was very victimizing. I was born into an experience that was very disempowering of the individual, to where there was a sense that there was no control, there was no say, there was no freedom, there was no ability to get out. And that permeated my consciousness. And I created that over and over and over and over and over again until I finally learned that there was a way that I could begin to think about things differently. And I could begin to take charge of my thought, if not my circumstances. And then by taking charge of my thought, I took charge of my circumstances. So when we have big questions like, why is there hunger? Why is there disease? Why is there poverty? The only thing that I can say is that that is an outpicturing of the consciousness of the whole. And I believe that it is very much our job to be raising that consciousness. It doesn't mean that pain doesn't exist. Pain is a given. Suffering is optional. You know, we did something, we had something hurt. How many times are we going to go back and re-experience that pain? Understanding that it's not that simple to just bring yourselves back into the now moment and move on. But if we don't master that ability to let go of the past and move into the now moment and move on, we will continue to experience the pain over and over and over again. It's like someone asked the Dalai Lama, how can you be so happy when the Chinese took your country? And he said, they already took my country, why should I give them my happiness? But that takes a lot of self-discipline to not go into that generalized belief system that says someone can take that away from me. So I want to ask the question, what do you think about these things that happen to people? How does all of that show up in this belief that we have, this teaching that we have that say we are creating our experience, every one of us? I mean, my dog is creating her experience. Everybody is creating their experience. I believe the trees are creating their experience. The rocks are creating their experience. That we are spiritual beings in a spiritual universe governed by spiritual law, and that law is creative. And yet, some of the experiences that we create are not great. How does that fit? That's a real question. Yeah.
I like the example that you've given before about how we choose like the experience we want to have. So maybe the people experiencing the Holocaust or whatnot chose that to, find, come in and find something. Yeah, before work, sorry. Yeah,
What?
come into this world.
Right.
Into
So
this world. They chose to
pre-birth,
have that
they would
experience.
choose
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I like
Okay.
what you said that.
Yeah, because
before.
John said that they chose like that to help everybody else learn a lesson from their experience.
It sure brought a different level of awareness up.
Yeah.
What else? What do you think? Morgan.
So, it seems like for the human race, it's very easy to fall into that lack and limitation. And as you were pointing out, we need to raise ourselves higher than that to break out of that. It's almost like thinking outside of the box.
Right. Sandy.
I think that when a baby comes into the world and they go out relatively quickly, they can change their mind too.
Right. I had a brother that after 3 days said, I don't think so. Maybe I bit off more than I could chew this time around, I'm out of here.
Change their mind.
Sure. And if life is eternal and there's nowhere to go, then there's nothing wrong with leaving this physical form. And I don't care how you leave. People say, well, we've had members of this center have death by suicide. It's the phrase now. Death by suicide. It's fine. It's fine. However, if we choose when we come in and when we go out, then every death is a suicide. We're just choosing I think I'll go by this disease, or I think I'll go by this car accident, or I think I'll go asleep at 103. It's all the same thing. We're choosing to leave this world. And there's no judgment on that, staying or going. Who else? What do you think?
Well, I think Dan and I have had this discussion. The thing that bothers, we have difficulty with, would be children or anybody who has a disease, especially children. And we both, both have experienced this, I especially, who have life-threatening diseases, we've seen them in the hospital, and they are choosing to have that cancer or that disease. So we're,
You don't think they are? On a
No, I don't
conscious
think they are.
level, I don't think they are.
I think they're learning from the experience, but some of them are dying from, I mean,
So if they're not choosing on a conscious level, because you're right, a child doesn't come into this world and go, I think I will have a painful, debilitating disease.
not that they came in with it, but let's say somewhere along the line they have it.
So they're not doing it consciously, and this is part of the lesson. How does that work in these models? Where is that happening?
Could be the parents.
Betty,
Some of it's race consciousness.
race consciousness,
And as far as, I mean, at least in my belief system, when a child comes in with a debilitating disease or a birth defect or whatever, it was something that they decided on a soul level before they entered this rotation.
so at some level, now a soul level is not a conscious thought. Again, we're dealing with things beyond the conscious mind. If we think that we are only our conscious thought, we are so limited. There is so much more to us than that. Hold on, Troy. Linda.
Can some of it be the consciousness of your parents?
Sure. Ernest wouldn't treat for kids. He would only treat for their parents.
I still don't, no. I don't see a 5-year-old all of a sudden getting a brain tumor that's life-threatening. They're leading a happy, wonderful, exactly what we were talking about, that kind of a life. That's all they know. I just don't accept that.
Okay. So what about an eternal being that has been alive millions of times in physical form, who has incarnated on this plane and for some reason chooses that path? We don't need to know what the reason is, that's not our business. But either we are creating our realities or we're not. And if one of us isn't, none of us are. And this is an important question to really grapple with inside of you, because none of us likes the pain aspect of it. None of us like lack and limitation. You know, we raise money to go build wells in Cambodia so that people over there have at least water to drink, for God's sake, so children aren't grabbed off the road and sold into the sex slave market, so that doesn't happen. None of us like that. But on a greater question, we are all either creating our reality or we're not. Troy, I forgot you.
Oh, no. Well, I've operated or thought on the premise that spirit, which is one, which is infinite, infinity cannot know itself. Impossible. So for spirit to know itself, the only thing it has is to individualize and view itself in components, just like snowflakes, each being different. There's no two alike. Mm-hmm. And as this process occurs, the universal mind grows through knowing itself, piece by piece, bit by bit, on and on.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you. Becca.
There's a story right now that I find very intriguing, that goes with the spirit making choices and we create our own, is the story on WLOS right now of the co-anchor Seltzer. He's twice a cancer survivor. His wife died of cancer, and their son that they adopted from Ethiopia, no blood relation, no cultural relation really, just died of cancer. So you had a 3-member family all contracting or creating rather than contracting cancer as a way to leave this world, but it's brought it very much into the forefront.
So there's the element of raising awareness. The part that I would like to interject is let's be careful not to judge having cancer as bad.
Oh, no.
So when look back on some of the things you put yourself in. If you judge it as being bad, you lose the opportunity to get a blessing from that, to grow from it. Some of the things that I've put myself in have very much been life-threatening in that the immediacy of the moment, I could have died, and I grew from that. I had an expanded awareness from that because I chose to have that.
But I also look at it as, and it's the child that brings it most to me.
Well, it sounds like it was a cancer house.
Yeah, the household had a race consciousness
Mhm.
of cancer.
Right.
And
And-
here
and-
they even brought a being from a totally different continent, totally different race.
And there is a personality profile to cancer. A feeling of being victimized, a feeling of not having any power. If you take statistics of people who have been diagnosed with cancer, they have personality profiles. And it's all about something coming from the outside and being able to hurt us, kill us, instead of an empowering consciousness that I can do something. When the Simonsons came up with the visualization for cancer, it was very, very new stuff in the 60s. They gave the kids a Pac-Man to gobble up all the little cancers in their body, and it gave the kids a sense that they were doing something, a sense of empowerment, and the getting well ratio of all those kids skyrocketed. Michael?
I think we really are all actors. You know, it's like, I think about this stuff too, right? And it's like, actors think it's really cool to be, you know, the nemesis, the good guy, and, you know, play all these different kind of roles. I think we do that too. I mean, it's just, it's so in our face right now, we think it's just so much different than it really is. But it's like, yeah, let me go be some, you know, streetwalker this lifetime. And, you know, let's go work in a rice paddy next time. And, you know, it's like, we're not here but for a minute in cosmic time, right? So it's like, we think it's like such this big deal when it's really not. We're only here for a minute, we're just playing a game, right? It's just a big game. And how much of it we come in with and say, okay, I'm gonna have cancer and, you know, teach somebody or whatever, and how much we create here because we forgot, and then ill thinking comes in and creates this stuff. That I don't know either, but.
And how much does all of the media and the stories about this disease or that disease or this thing, I think it was Wallace Wattles said that the focus on medical health has made more sick people than there ever were, because there's the focus, you know, do you have this, do you have that, do you have this? And we have all created scenarios that we, at the time, would rather have not created. It's really important for us to take the judgment off, however you do it, whether we're only here for the flash, the blink of a butterfly's eye, or we have thousands of lifetimes, or we've picked this for some kind of a growth pattern. The first time I ever heard that was Edwene Gaines. Edwene was raped in the crib. And her take on that, when she worked through a lot of it, was that she came into this world to have to be a woman of power. God's woman of power, that's what she calls herself. And she went through an initiation to be able to understand the use of power against someone, so that she would not do that. And that was her take. Now, did she make that up? Maybe. But if we look at telling our stories to ourselves over and over and over again and recreating that in our world, or telling ourselves a new story that lifts us up and empowers us, I think it's a good idea to tell ourselves a new story. And whenever we see these things, the Zika virus, people starving to death, genocides, you know, all of that stuff that question us to say, are there things outside of our power? Is there a force for evil? Then we're moving into that idea that is going to have an outside God, and we are not going to live the life that we could live. Dan?
By that reasoning then, cancer is part of God.
Absolutely.
Is what?
Cancer is a
Part of
constructive force in the body. It has no destructive force to keep it in check. Cancer is an amazing cell. It just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows until the host is dead. Of course, everything is a part of God or everything isn't. Everything is God or everything isn't. And these are really important questions to look at. Morgan.
So like with Edwin Gaines working through it, do you take that growth, that working through with, like, to your next evolution in life?
I think that every bit of growth that we have forever. And whether or not we're evolving or having incarnations in life or wherever we go and whatever we do, I think that what we get, we keep. I'm not sure we keep our personality.
Right.
But those steps of love and expansion and light and all of that, I think we keep forever. I forgot your name.
I'm gonna wear a name tag. It's Denny.
Denny.
Yes. My confusion about all this and how come it happens in such large amounts of people in one area like Syria, for instance.
Well, tell me, what do you think?
I don't know. I've pondered this a lot, and I think about this a lot because it hurts me somehow. And
Well, be mindful of the hurt because
I know.
you get a charge off of that. But let's look at the idea that there might be a cancer house. Might there be a war country? That people are so ingrained in that consciousness, it's all they see. They keep creating it over and over and over again for generations. It's all they know.
on a multiple scale, like more than,
Sure.
many
Millions of people, yeah.
9/11's another example that comes to my mind.
Well, just look at the Mideast. Look how long they've been fighting. And look at people that have a feeling that there's not gonna be enough. That there's not gonna be enough. How they create that over and over and over again in their lives. Look at women and all of the growth that women have done in terms of having the right to vote, having owning your child. I mean, recently women just flat out didn't own their kids. If they left the marriage, the man got the kids because the women didn't have any rights. And so women are going up, they're growing through that. And that's something that's easy, the whole civil rights movement that says we are all equal, we are all the same. This is new stuff on the planet. At least the planet that I know about. Once we've evolved and we change the past, it'll be a different planet. But this is a new concept. Slavery is still alive and well all over the world. They're chopping off hands and heads and all kinds of things. And I think that it's important to stay clear that it's all God or none of it's God. And that we have a role to play in lifting that vibration and lifting that consciousness. I think that's why this work is so important. People think that all we care about is having money. That's absurd. We care about changing the world. We care about creating a better life for every man, woman, and child on the planet. That's what's important about this teaching. But to do it, we have to be clear inside of ourselves. And these big questions deserve the time for us to answer them and come to some kind of resolution. B.
And I've heard the concept of that this is all part of the evolution. And it's the evolution of consciousness, evolution of mankind, evolution of spirit. And
Right.
Who was it who was talking about spirit looking into itself and creating out of itself? That it's just all to lift.
Right. That's why the work in South Africa was so important after apartheid, where they had the forgiveness trials. I mean, just huge. You killed my family, and I forgive you. One after another, after another, after another. That was a huge breakthrough in consciousness for all humanity. Sandy.
Something just totally, I think I had an aha moment or something, it could happen, and does, a lot. With Syria, 9/11, slavery, you had mentioned something that now totally makes sense to me. We travel in groups.
Oh, I think we travel in groups.
Yeah, and nobody has ever determined how big those groups are, so I'm wondering if that could be.
What do you mean? What do you mean travel?
Oh, I just have met so many people for the first time that I knew. that I feel like we have a band of brothers and sisters that we incarnate in lifetimes with. That's just my personal
Yeah.
opinion.
Like a lifetime you spent with somebody else before.
Yeah.
Right. And the interesting thing about this whole conversation is we live in the safest time in recorded history. There are less murders, less war, less poverty, less illness than we've ever had.
You telling me the world was killing each other more
More,
before than now?
yes.
It's just
Yeah.
reported more
How's that
now.
even possible?
It's
We
just
didn't even have that
reported.
many
Well, and
people.
disease.
We didn't live long, Michael. 25, we were out of here.
And it's the media nowadays, everybody knows it's immediately when something happens.
But what that does is that gives us an opportunity to lift up in consciousness and to see ourselves in each other. You know, you gotta see yourself as the perpetrator. And that for me was always the hardest one. Oh no, I'll be the rapee, but not the raper. Oh, it's gotta be inside of me too. And then that's where compassion comes in. That walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. Have compassion instead of reactive vengeance. You've gotta be able to bridge that gap and to see the oneness of it all. And what that does is that opens up our hearts, it opens up our minds, and it lifts us all as a humanity. And I think that's the real work. April.
My thought is, I mean, I know everything is God. And all I can really grapple with is how I perceive it.
Right. And that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
Our job is
Yeah.
to see God in everything and everyone. In terms of abusers, everyone who abuses was abused.
Indeed.
Period, end of story.
Yes.
You don't have anyone just pop up and say, I think I'll abuse. That all happened to them, and so there's a stop the cycle, stop the insanity, stop the cycle of abuse. And we are that point through love and compassion and clarity that stops that. Susan and then Troy.
I think the point was made.
Maybe Troy and Susan.
Ladies first. It's okay, go ahead, continue. It's all right.
Thank you. It's a matter of perception, how we view ourselves. Do we see ourselves as individuals, as egos, as competitive creatures that actually are born and die? Is that who we are? Well, then it's easy to see the world as a really crazy place. If, however, we shift that perception and we see ourselves within God, as God, through God, it can be really the biggest game ever played, a universal game of learning, a game with a point to it.
Right, a point of evolution.
Evolution.
A point of rising up in consciousness. And again, I think that's where we are so important in that. To be able to see the divine in the midst of a crisis is our job. To see love where everybody is hating is our job. To see that there is more than enough when people are transitioning through starvation is our job. And that's energetically up here and here changes down here. People are still trying to change the bottom of the circle by working at the level of the bottom of the circle, and it will never change from there. It has to change in consciousness. Susan.
So there's a story, I might have cited it before, but it comes back to me. It just does. There was a man, and he was a metaphysical, spiritual guy on a path, and he was friendly and open, and he was Santa Claus at Christmas time, and he thought of himself as very loving and giving and open-minded. And he was at the subway one day, and he watched somebody push somebody in the tracks. And all that he could tell himself to get over it, he couldn't get over it. He wound up in therapy with this. He just couldn't get over it. And what came back to him, and I don't know the path that it came back to him, was the hatred that he felt for that other person, and that there was just an aspect of himself, is what was told to him. And he said, no, I'm Santa Claus, I'm loving
I'm
and
good.
I'm giving
I would
and
never
I'm
do
good."
that.
I would never do that. I would never push anybody off the track. But was pointed out, he pushed people away emotionally.
Mhm.
So it was a little piece or a different piece, it looked different, but it was the act of pushing,
Right.
and he got that about himself.
Because why was he in that place? Everything that is happening around you is a reflection of you, and there are other people involved, it's a cosmic dance, but there are no accidents, there are no coincidences, everything is a reflection of our consciousness. And when we can start to look with kindness and forgiveness and love into all of those circumstances from this vantage point of oneness, one of the questions is, where is that for me to heal? Why was it in my world if it's not in my consciousness? Otherwise, I would have been looking the other way. And I would never have seen it, never even known about it, never heard about it. But because it was there, it's in my consciousness. And if it's in my consciousness and it's come up to heal. So it's our job to heal it. And one of the biggest ways we can do that is through love and compassion. Not judging somebody wrong. I've heard people say that Hitler was one of the greatest gifts to people. You know, whoa, that'll set you back and let you look at some things. And so as we look at these basic ideas, and if you don't grapple with these right away, then you'll sweep them under the rug, and then the demonstration that you want will be good, and the demonstration that you didn't think you wanted will be bad, and it will be because something is lacking in your consciousness, because you're not ready, because you haven't grown enough, and it'll be the same crap of a God outside that is not giving you what you want because you don't deserve it. So you've got to look at these ideas. What is God? Who am I? And what's going on? How does all of this fit together? Very basic ideas to start this journey of science of mind. Any other questions or comments? I'm so proud of you. You're so willing to look.
I have a question. How long does it take before this is an egg?
I've been working on this for 45 years.
You're still working on it.
And I'm still working on it, but I tell you, I'm getting better.
Okay.
Yeah, you are.
I'm getting
You
better.
are.
I'm getting better to look at something and to go, I don't care how real that looks. That is only as real as I make it. Nothing is real unless you make it real. Nothing can touch you unless you allow it to touch you. You have to give agreement. For that matter, you gotta lasso it and pull it into you. And if you are pulling in circumstances that you don't want, it has to do with what you think of yourself. And you cannot think of yourself as a powerful, creative, spiritual being alive and well on planet Earth with an outside God that will hurt you if you don't live up to some expectations. There's no compassion in that. There's no love in that. You look at yourself and you forgive yourself, you love yourself, and you come into present moment and you move on.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember your name.
Denny.
Denny. And that's an easy name. It's not a name with many, many syllables that somebody made up. Denny, thank you. Any other questions before we close? I actually like this size class. We can talk more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, pick out what you're gonna give. I've only got 2 baskets, so we'll just pass them all around. The other ones are locked up from yesterday. Nancy took the day off. Remember, your outer wealth is a reflection of your self-worth. Your outer worth is a reflection of your self-worth. So spend time on ousting anything that makes you feel less than. And move into that idea that you are a being of light, a being of love, totally supported by all of life. That God lives and moves and has its being to peel you a grape. And so I know that as we give this gift tonight, that it moves out from us, sets spiritual law in motion, and comes back to us multiplied abundantly. I know that each and every one of us is a powerful, creative, spiritual being, alive and well on planet Earth, that all is well in our lives. I know that we are healthy, that we are wealthy, that we are filled with joy, and we succeed at every turn. I know that we are blessed. And I know that each one of us comes together this night to make this center for spiritual living all that it was ever meant to be. It is a place of peace, a beacon of light, a tower of strength, and a fountain of wisdom that touches the lives of all who call it home.
So it is.
Pass this around. And for those of you listening online, thank you for going to the Donate Now button and generously contributing to the work of this center. Breathe it in. Breathe it in. Whatever God is, God lifts us, supports us, opens us. Whatever life is, it is abundant. It is a bounty. It is a blessing. And I know that each one of us is blessed. Everything in these baskets is blessed. And our center is blessed. We have got the best teaching and the best center and the best people ever. And I know that that is because of our energy that we put out. So I know that as we gave this gift, that which we are went with the gift. It fills up this room from the floor to the ceiling, all between the walls. This air is rich and blessed with God as us. It touches us, it blesses us, and it heals us, it awakens us, it lifts us. And in so doing, it awakens and lifts all of humanity, circling this globe and shooting out into the stars. I know that the work that we do is holy work, that all is well, and so it is.
So it is.
So it is. I love you guys. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you Sunday, if not sooner.